we could have your attention, it's 6 o'clock. Welcome to City Hall. This is our May 2nd meeting of 2015. Only about 5 more meetings of this council, and we'll have a new council or different members of council and a new mayor. Obviously, study up on that. I saw an article in the paper today that they said get to know your mayoral candidates, so be try to do that. Next, we'll have a prayer led by Councilman Graham, and then please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us bow our head. Dear Lord, thank you for creating this opportunity to conduct business. As your word says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Let our heart be humble, unselfish, and in good faith. May you bless our thoughts and our words that are within us. Continue to bless our servicemen and women, both home and abroad. I ask for your armor of protection for our public safety officers who place themselves in harm's way each and every day. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, roll call, please.
Branch.
Here.
Costellas.
Here.
Graham.
Present.
Henry.
Here.
Hussey.
Here.
Medine. Mihalovich.
Here.
Prather.
Here.
Scrivener.
Here.
Ward. Here.
All right, at this point in time, we'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. No miscellaneous agenda items tonight. By the way, there was a small change to the agenda across the hallway. If you look at consent agenda, item number, our letter B, when it talks about the international truck, there was a typo in a summary, and that should have been $87,830 is the dollar amount. No appointments by myself, no public hearings. Presentations from staff and invited guests. First we have Dr. Rome, which I think is out tonight, and Mr. Bill Lockwood with our Parks and Rec Department. Bill, welcome. Betts has got job security as a sound guy. Yeah, it's like. Does that work, Bill? You can use your desk, which would be fine. In the meantime, Bill can get that fixed for Mr. Roseberg coming up. There you go.
Up on February 10th at the Park Commission meeting for their approval as well. We have a meeting among staffs between Parks and Recreation and Lincoln tomorrow to get into further discussions on the memorandum of agreement and the operating plan for the facility, and still continuing to work out a detailed budget and staffing plan as we try to move forward. So be happy to answer any questions you have.
Test.
That's catching me. Any questions of Bill? All right, Bill, thanks a lot for being here.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. All right, next I'll introduce Carlos Graham, a former president of the Lions Club here in Jefferson City, the host Lions Club.
Yes.
Mr. Graham.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is my pleasure to introduce members of the Jeff City Host Lions Club. Today we have our president of Lion, Pat Mills. We have our first vice president of Lion, Roger Swartz. And we have the person who's in charge of our ham and bean dinner of Mr. Lyle Rossberg. So if they could just please come to the podium and tell us a little bit about ham, bean, chili, and hot dogs.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Raise that up a little bit. Larry understands when I go through. Well, we appreciate you being here tonight. Obviously, the work that you do, and it ties very much into the service that you do for the community is also our motto as well. We serve for the community. Many people may not realize what the Lions Club has been, and many of you are members. Carlos is a member, Mr. Mayor is a member, and Mr. Prather is a member. So it's wonderful that you guys are representing and serving in so many different capacities. For those of you who don't really realize what the Lions do, from a community standpoint, we do lots of different support. Whether it's to our local schools, where we've helped contribute to the football locker room upgrades, or the stadium upgrades, and Licklighter track, the Miller Performing Arts Center. Our community support goes to giving money to a lot of different organizations, including the Buddy Pack program, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Boys and Girls Club, Samaritan Centers, Salvation Army, and the list goes on. Nationwide and internationally, we are very supportive of eye and hearing research. We do a Missouri Lions Eye Research Foundation, which is called Saving Sight up in Columbia, contribute to that for eye tissue research. But we also do local amblyopia screenings for children for lazy eye. We also give a lot of money to pay for eyeglasses and hearing aids and exams for local people that are in need. From our partnership with the city of Jefferson has been very beneficial as well. The Lions Club, well before our times, was the predecessor to the park board. So Bill can understand how the joys that go along with that. The Trailway restroom facility on Wildwood and West Edgewood was a Lions Club project. We built the original ice arena, the original golf clubhouse, and we put in playground equipment in many, many different parks. We've also been a sponsor of the School Safety Patrol with the police department for many years. Recently got them new gear and raincoats with Lions emblems, as well as very reflective. Most recently, we've embarked on a partnership with the Greenway Trail expansion on the bridge that's going to go over the creek on West Edgewood. So we're excited about that. So tonight, we're not here to ask for money, and many people do. They come in and want you to do something and spend a little money on them, but we're hoping that you might just support us on Wednesday when we have our 59th annual Ham and Bean and Chili event. Some information should be in your packet. We're looking forward to that. We'll serve over 1,900 people, so we'll serve a lot of folks. It's a great day, a great cause, and it's one of our biggest fundraisers for our club, and that's how we fund those many things that we support. Of course, we couldn't do it by ourselves. We have a lot of different support, including Republic Waste Services or Allied Waste, Coca-Cola, the News Tribune, Schulte, Schnucks. Those are all, we try to buy locally and use local products whenever we can. So we are very supportive of them, and we just want to hope you'll continue to support that. But we hope you'll also come out and join us on Wednesday for lunch, dinner, takeout. We'll deliver all those different things. So hope you'll support us as we continue to support our community. We appreciate the service you do for the community as we serve as well. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions for Lyle? Bob.
Lyle, you said lunch and dinner, but what hours exactly?
11 to 1:30
Okay.
and 4 to 7.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. And they're at the Salinger Center at St. Peter's. So that's right. Well, I'm not sure how many years we've been there. We've been doing this 59 years, and I'm pretty sure the Salinger Center has been the only base of operations. So.
Very good. Thank you.
Good deal. Thanks, guys, for what you
Thank
do
you
in the
very much.
community.
Appreciate
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Next, I have Charles Palmer here this evening. Charles is going to give us an update on the Lewis and Clark Task Force. Mr. Palmer, welcome. Long time no see.
Long time no see. Yes, since a year. Thanks much for having me. I appreciate it. To bring you up to date on what's going on with the task force. We're still in business, and I believe you have the numbers. We've run the numbers. They're in your devices there. The column on the extreme right will tell you what happened with the weekend presentations that we do on Saturdays, Sundays, and holiday Mondays. And then during the week, we do people who call and want a special affair, or schools. The weekends are up. We had a break with the weather this year, or rather in 14. 13 was a killer, but we had a good year this year. Lost a couple in the early, but those numbers are up. The school numbers are way down. That's because of budgetary considerations that they just can't handle it all. We're going to continue to maintain the monument. We'll be there. Our schedules are in process of being done now for the weekends, and we'll be there. We've had established a great relationship with OA to help us with keeping the flora, the greensward around the monument itself. They're helping us do that. Our folks are saying dig here or cut here, and the employees of OA do the actual hands-on activity. Parks and Rec is helping us all the time, and thanks, Bill, for the support that you have given us for the year. One of the things that you should be complimented for, you have financed us in the early days, and that money was, I think, well spent based on the fact that we are getting tourists in to see the monument and to visit the city. We wash and wax it twice a year. We did it in September, and we're due again in May. The monument looks like it's the condition it was in when it was dedicated in '08, and we're going to continue that as long as we can, although we're all getting old. The other project that we had, we did presentations for service groups, church groups, women's organizations, schools, on 5 different presentations involving the Louisiana Purchase and the Core Discovery and the trip that they made to the West Coast and back. Those were done old-time ways, slide-assisted presentations. We've now converted those to discs, so we'll be able, other people will be able to make presentations also, and that will be an ongoing affair. So the monies that you've spent helped us. We appreciate it, and we're doing our best to keep it going. I'm open for questions if any are there.
Any questions, Charles? Bob?
Yes.
Charles, thank you for the work that you do and the work of the group. And you said something that caught my attention when you said you'll keep that up for as long as you can, something about getting older. Have you made any effort, or have you been able to recruit any younger people that might show an interest in carrying on your efforts?
Only every chance we get.
Well, I knew you made efforts to recruit, but have you had any luck?
We're running an ad in the paper under the volunteer business in the paper period. About every 6 weeks it runs. Mm-hmm. We're asking for volunteers. One of the things that's killing us, and it happens to all volunteer organizations who are focused on an event or a happening. War of 1812 was the last thing we went. So they had no problem getting folks to help. Coming up is the Civil War. So that's already being talked about in the Capitol. We have a time capsule at the Trailhead Plaza, which can be opened in 50 years or 100, whichever our successors decide to do it. And there are manuals available at some 20-odd locations around town, including, of course, the archives, which tells our successors, those who follow, what we did for the bicentennial. Right. We hope that we're going to continue. We hope that, but it's a tough swing.
Well, again, thanks for what you've done and for what I know you'll continue to do. Your efforts are appreciated.
Thank you. We're trying hard.
Any other questions? Charles, thanks for being here again. Good seeing you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, take care, sir. Next, we have our Cultural Arts Commission by Lucia Erickson Kinlow. How are you, ma'am?
Great.
Good to see you again. Long time since you made me an auctioneer, by the way.
Say again.
That the night you made me an auctioneer, that was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun. We hope to do similar activities in the future if we can get the commission to buy into that kind of activity. First of all, thank you for allowing me to report to you some of the things we've been doing in the last year at the Cultural Arts Commission. We have 9 working members and 2 great applicants waiting to be approved by the city, and that will return us to a full 9-member commission. We couldn't do half of what we do if it weren't for the city staff, and I'm sincere about that. Janice McMillan and Jamie Abbott drew the short straws this year to help us out, and they've been so supportive of our work, including Laura Ward, who's our city council liaison with you all. I just want to thank them publicly. Some of our accomplishments this past year was an installation, our first roundabout installation by Dan Howarth, a local artist, and I wanted to thank Councilman Graham for officiating, and some of the rest of you might have been there, and Britt and his city crew for helping to kind of create that structure around the roundabout there on Stadium. You might want to buzz by there and take a look at it. It's entitled Joy. And Dan Howarth is preparing a second statue for installation, hopefully. Midwest Block is to be thanked for donations of blocks and tribute pavers. And we have a new High Street mural by Dennis Holliday. And it's an illustration, if you will, of the past or the present, kind of an overview of Jefferson City. And it's not meant to be exactly accurate, but it's sort of a rendition of how things have kind of progressed architecturally. He's still working on it. It's in the outdoor. It's one of those outdoor walls in the Gundelfinger, I always say that wrong, park across from the old courthouse building. He's still working on it, so kind of keep tabs on it. We had some banners, big vinyl banners printed by 2 local artists, Jennifer Neff and Dennis Weisler. And we're going to find an alternative home for these banners because they really don't fare well in the outdoors. So you may not see them again on the outside of a building, but we hope you'll see them on the inside of some wonderful building in the future. Our downtown fountain project, it's been initiated. It's called the Fountain of Hope. It's to be located in the Safi's walkthrough on the Safi's side of the wall. They're going to donate all the electricity and all the water for the ongoing fountain. The state prisoners will probably be the ones fabricating the metal water element, in HOPE, Hope. Andrea Cleaton, you might have caught in the Jefferson City Magazine, a profile of her. She's going to be our glass artist to create these ribbons denoting the different types of cancer that can be bought by individuals, which will actually fund the long-term fund of the fountain. And Cancer Society, Breast Care Cancer Project, and private donors such as the funeral homes are all in part of this endeavor. This past fall, we had another successful local art auction and wine tasting event. And we hope that the profits will go to a project I'll talk about in a minute. We have an active Facebook, and we've recently been doing surveys, reaching out to the public to ask them what they would like to see in terms of cultural arts in the city, what events, disciplines, and we're getting a fair amount of feedback. We're currently working on a Missouri Arts Council grant with the help of the city. It's a 2-year matching grant, 1-to-1, and if successful, the commission will double the Arts Commission's $6,000 budget to $12,000. Every attempt is being made to secure more outside donors, private donors, to increase this amount before we submit at the end of February. Now, this grant will include new partnerships with Friday Night Art Stroll, Capital City Cinema, Nichols Training Center, the JC Academic Center, Halo, Thursday Night Live, CVB, Art Bazaar, Edna Miller, Performing Arts Center, Capital City Arts, summer acting camps, Dance Community, Salute to America, and the local theaters, and a few more. We'll be enhancing what they do, supporting them and enhancing what they do through funds, through promotion, through buying supplies for them, etc. We're also going to initiate a monthly electronic newsletter that will act as an accessible overview of arts events and activities and attractions in the community. And this is going to go out in mass and hopefully become the go-to place to find out what's happening in town. We're also going to do a public awareness campaign with these dollars to encourage residents to participate in the culture arts community, something like put down your remote, get wild, go see a play, something like that. This grant can be renewed for a second year. It is our hope to request an increase, I'm just giving you a hint, in our allocation from the city next year by $2,000, from $6,000 to $8,000, thereby doubling our usable dollars from $12,000 to $16,000. This increase would allow us to get further along on the second roundabout statue, especially, along with other projects on the drawing board. We feel hopeful about this grant opportunity as the staff at the Missouri Arts Council sought us out to apply. Just a little peek into what the foundation is doing. On March 3rd, we'll have our first community planning meeting to identify appropriate sites for a splash park. And you probably heard rumblings about that, that we would love to try to sponsor and get the plans for that going. We'll be sending out invitations to you all very soon. We hope you will be there. It'll be a charrette that's facilitated by Carrie Gamfer, a local architect in town. And then our first annual ice cream splash event, based on the Boston long-term event, will be our annual event to underwrite some of the expenses of the splash park. We hope to see come to realization in a couple of years. I just wanted to say I'm going to step down from the chairman's role of this commission sometime this year. My daughter's getting married and my mother's failing. I will remain on the commission and stay on in the chair seat of the foundation. It's been a privilege to work with you in this capacity and been honored by your trust. Thank you.
Lucia, when will you be stepping down?
I think I'm going to allow, or I have a vice president who's sort of shadowing me for a while, okay. And when he feels comfortable, his name is Zach Wilson, feels comfortable, I'll fade into the distance.
Could it be before April?
Could it be?
Yeah.
Sure.
I've got that same kind of fading into the sunset type.
We could stay. Hey, we could think out together.
Well, I got something for you.
Oh.
Come forward.
Oh.
I know you don't get this until you actually give up a retirement, but you've done such a great job on all of our arts. I remember whenever the Arts Commission first started, I was on the council, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, we don't need art. We're Jefferson City." Well, you've changed that, so come get a coin.
Well, thank
there you
you.
go. Good job. Alrighty, guys. Let's see here. Number 8, announcements by council. I don't have anything. Staff. Steve, do you have anything? I know Matt does, and Janice both do. Janice first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to announce a council work session on the subject of the solid waste RFP, and that will be on Monday, February 9th, a week from this evening at 5:30.
All right, thank you. And Matt, I've been seeing some advertising and some road signs. I understand there's some changes coming.
I have one more.
You go right ahead. I'm sorry, Janice.
And I'd also like to invite everyone to an open house to discuss and look at plans for wayfinding. The wayfinding consultant, Arcturus, will be in town on Wednesday, February 11th from 3 to 6 p.m. And you can have an opportunity to look at proposed designs for those wayfinding signs and have some input into that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Janice. Mr. Matt, I understand there's a highway or highways closing. Can you tell us more?
Certainly. As you indicated, Highway 5063 will be closing this weekend. MoDOT will be, that's a MoDOT controlled roadway, and they'll be closing that roadway for some bridge removals associated with the Lafayette Street project. So they'll be taking down the Jackson Street and the Chestnut Street bridges. They will have detours signed. Those are for, probably most likely out of town through trucks, things of that nature, and those will be signed on their roadways, essentially lettered routes, but it'll go from Taos to Wardsville and back down to the highway. So that's what will be officially signed as a detour by MoDOT. Obviously, The roads will be open up until, if you're coming eastbound or from the west, there'll be the road, Madison Street will still be open, Monroe Street will be closed, so you'll have to turn off at Madison if you're coming from that direction on the highway, and then use the local street network to get around this traffic. If you're coming from the east or going westbound, you can exit at Clark still, and then use the local roadway network. So I think this is just over the weekend. I don't know if I mentioned the time yet or not, but it's to be 7 o'clock on Friday evening, February 6th is when it'll start, and then it's scheduled to be open by 6 a.m. Monday morning, February 9th. So just that full weekend. Now this would be anticipated to be around-the-clock construction, so obviously there'll be trucks and things moving about to haul the debris away from these removals. Lots of truck traffic just at the job site, and then probably a little noise, so people should probably be prepared for that. And again, you can find out more about it on MoDOT's website at modot.org, or if you're more comfortable coming to the city website, there's a link right on the front page that'll take you there. So that's at jeffcitymo.org.
Okay. Any questions for Matt? All right, Matt. Good job, Janice. You too. Appreciate it. Next, we have the consent agenda tonight. As I mentioned earlier, there's a small correction. $87,830 should be the number behind the Shepherd's bill. There was a mistake made when we put a packet together. At this point in time, we'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as discussed.
So move.
Okay, it's been moved in second. All in favor? Any questions or debate? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next, we'll move into bills introduced. First bill tonight is 2014-114. First reading, please.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Environmental and Process Systems Incorporated in the amount of $69,800 for the Algoa vertical solids removal equipment.
Matt.
Thank you. As clerk indicated, this is a construction contract. They'll be putting in a new bar screen at the Algoa plant at our lagoon there. And basically what that does is just removes debris before it gets into our equipment, our pumps or anything. We've had a recent uptick in some debris coming out of probably the penitentiary out that way. And so we want to keep that out of our equipment. So this will upgrade that.
Any questions for Matt on 2014-114? All right, seeing none, we'll have first reading of 2014-115. Summary, please.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for Transportation Alternative Program funds.
Matt.
Thank you. This is, as clerk indicated again, a grant agreement with MoDOT. It's kind of a companion to what Janice just mentioned on a public meeting coming up, or the second phase of it, implementation phase. MoDOT is awarded the city a grant to implement wayfinding inside the city. The grant amounts to $214,000, and it's an 80-20 grant, so roughly $53,500 will be the local match on that. Several organizations have contributed the match. I'll just kind of run through, give everybody who pledged to contribute. But Downtown Jefferson City, Discover, Jefferson City Foundation, Jefferson City Convention and Visitor Bureau, Capital Region Medical Center, City of Jefferson Parking Division, Eastside Business Association, and Historic City of Jefferson all pledged to make up that match for this grant. Basically, what it will do is install signs in the downtown area and around, indicating, like we have talked about, the wayfinding type of grant. This goes to pedestrian level wayfinding all the way to people in vehicles. So those will all be on city streets, and we'll also be hiring, with this money, we'll also be hiring a consultant to help us implement that. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Matt on the wayfinding grant? Bob.
Matt, you said hiring, and I presume it's a length of time contract. I mean, it's not a permanent position.
No, particular to this project, part of the grant will pay for hiring consultants. That's a future contract you'll see on a council agenda probably fairly quickly to get it implemented. And then of course, construction dollars as well to actually put the signs in.
Okay. I assumed that was the case, but I just want to make sure that people at home
Certainly.
Understood that.
All right, any other questions on 115? All right, we have third reading of 2014-105.
An ordinance amending the code of the City of Jefferson, Missouri pertaining to reserved parking.
Mr. Matt.
Thank you. This is kind of a cleanup ordinance in the parking code that basically changes parking director to public works director in the code.
Any questions of staff on 105? Discussion, roll call.
Branch.
Aye.
Costales.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Henry.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Scrivener.
Aye.
Ward.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next we have third reading of 2014-106.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending Section 19401, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Schedule J, Parking Prohibited, Subparagraph A of the Code of the City of Jefferson pertaining to a portion of Jefferson Street.
Matt.
Thank you. This bill will modify our parking regulation to remove parking on Jefferson Street at the intersection with Fillmore. Currently, it's removed for approximately 60 feet. That will go up to 135 feet to help correct a sight distance issue at the intersection. The request was discussed at the Transportation and Traffic Commission meeting, and they recommended approval.
Any questions of Matt on 106 or other staff members? Discussion by council. Roll call, please.
Costales.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Henry.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Scrivener.
Aye.
Ward.
Aye.
Branch.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next we'll have third reading of 2014-107.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending Chapter 19, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Schedule G, Stop Intersections, Subparagraph B, Other Specified Intersections of the Code of the City of Jefferson by the addition of Yorktown Drive at Rolling Hills Road.
Matt.
Thank you. With the opening of St. Mary's, the staff's been looking through our code for various signs and speed limits in the area and noticed a couple things that could be improved. One of them is this one, adding to the code a stop sign at Yorktown where it intersects Rolling Hills Road, which is the roadway that goes past St. Mary's. This was also vetted through the Transportation and Traffic Commission and recommended approval.
Any questions on 107? Any debate? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Graham.
Aye.
Henry.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Mahalovich. Prather.
Aye.
Scrivener.
Aye.
Ward.
Aye.
Branch.
Aye.
Costales.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next we'll have third reading of 108, please.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending Section 19401, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Schedule A, Speed Limits, Subparagraph G, 40 miles per hour of the Code of the City of Jefferson pertaining to speed limits on a portion of Mission Drive.
Matt.
Thank you. And this is also to do with the opening of the new St. Mary's, but Mission Drive, the roadway that intersects Highway 179 at the new exit ramps there, connecting to St. Mary's. The roadway signed 40 miles an hour, and we're just cleaning up our code, adding that to our code.
Does that change what's currently there, Matt?
No, it's what it was designed for and signed.
For 40. Okay. Any questions of the council by Matt on 108? Discussion? Roll call.
Henry.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Scrivener.
Aye.
Ward.
Aye.
Branch.
Aye.
Costales.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next we'll have third reading of 109.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri, amending Section 19401, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Schedule J, Parking Prohibited, Subparagraph A of the Code of the City of Jefferson pertaining to a portion of East Dunklin.
Matt.
Thank you. This is as a result of our new crosswalk that was installed on Dunklin Street, mid-block crossing on Dunklin near Jackson and the employment security offices. The The state, as you might recall, paid the city to install a pedestrian actuated signal there for mid-block crossings. And after we constructed that, we kind of reviewed some of the site distances and trying to make that the best that it can be, and recommended increasing the parking removal in that area to about 235 feet from Jackson Street. So basically what that will do will take away 4 additional parking spaces right in the vicinity of that crossing. Also discussed at the December Transportation and Traffic Commission meeting and recommended approval.
Any questions of Matt on 109? Seeing none, debate. Roll call, please.
Hussey.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Scrivener.
Aye.
Ward. Branch.
Aye.
Costello.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Henry.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next we'll have third reading of 110, please.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute a contract amendment with George Butler Associates Incorporated in the amount of $254,774.69 for the design of Stadium Boulevard, Jefferson Street, and the Highway 54 off-ramp as proposed in the Highway 54 and Stadium Boulevard Interchange Traffic Study Report.
Matt.
Thank you. Clerk said quite a bit about it already. So basically the cost for the agreement is $254,000. Majority of that will be paid through MoDOT, through STP funds administered by MoDOT, $200,000 of that, roughly. The remaining $54,000 will be split between the city and county evenly, so about $25,000 each. And as she indicated in her explanation, this is basically designing the improvements to the west side of Highway 54 on Stadium. It's a companion to our project that we're currently in design on the east side of the Highway 54 near Monroe Street. So once this design will implement a new roundabout at Stadium and Jefferson, or design a new roundabout at Stadium and Jefferson, prepare the bid documents and various things of that nature. And we anticipate this going to construction in 2016. The east side would go to construction this summer in 2015, so we're very close on letting that project. So we're still on schedule to complete both of these. Again, the purpose for both of these projects, better access from the highway to our high schools, to 2 high schools on that corridor and other schools, and as well as the hospital expansion. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Matt on 110?
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir, Mr. Graham.
Matt, do we have a time frame of when the drawings may be available? Because I remember a couple of months ago we had this discussion, and some of the residents in that area brought up some concerns of how this would look. Do we have a time frame of when the design will be able
on the west side or the east side?
East side.
On the east side, yes, we've had a couple public meetings with folks, and I haven't heard any other concerns since then.
Okay.
Of course, they're available. They can contact us here at City Hall. We can talk with them about that if they still have lingering concerns.
Okay.
But I'd be glad to talk to them. In fact, that project, I think we're getting our plans yet this week and maybe out to bid within a month.
Okay.
Anything else, Carlos?
That's it. Thank you, sir.
Any other questions on 110? All right, thank you, Matt. Is there just debate? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Scrivener.
Aye.
Ward. Branch.
Aye.
Costello.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Henry.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we'll have first reading of 111.
An ordinance of the City of Jefferson, Missouri authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an agreement with Cole County setting procedures for joint city and county capital improvement sales tax projects.
Matt.
Thank you. This is the companion agreement to the one we just talked about. Basically, it just indicates the city will administer the projects for the Stadium and Jefferson intersection, as well as split the cost evenly with the county, the 50-50 cost split. We did talk to the county about this last week, and they approved in concept the plans for the interchange as well as this agreement last week. So once we're final here, the agreement will be complete.
Any questions for Matt on 111? Debate. Seeing none, roll call, please.
Prather.
Aye.
Scrivener.
Aye.
Ward.
Aye.
Branch.
Aye.
Costales.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Henry.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we'll have third reading of 112, please.
An ordinance amending the code of the City of Jefferson, Missouri by authorizing the mayor to issue a hazardous travel advisory.
Matt.
Thank you. The code already indicates several items that the mayor would be responsible for doing in this section of the code, but this adds one more tool of that toolbox where the mayor could issue on consulting with police chief, myself, city administrator, has a hazardous travel emergency, which would be a ban on certain roadways. Kind of designed after if you had a Joplin-like event or something like that where they had to keep people out of certain areas for public safety issues, that could be instituted for the code. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Matt on 112? Bob.
Matt, if the mayor declared a hazardous situation, would it be the mayor then that would have the authority to lift that ban as well, or could it be lifted by someone else?
I believe he could lift it. I think he's supposed to lift it, but obviously in consultation. Once the emergency is passed, then the ban would be lifted.
So it'd be.
And of course, it exempts during the ban certain emergency personnel, people that may need it for emergency services, things like that. There are some exemptions, but it's just to direct people not to be in places that they probably shouldn't be for a little while.
There was a question, I think, by some of the news media about their access and a situation like that. Was that resolved?
I think that came to Drew, and
Do you know the question might have been?
Yeah, the question was
issue.
specifically from a weathercaster if they were specifically identified in the
Oh, right.
emergency personnel, and they were not. But there are exigent circumstances that there's some leeway there. So if they wanted to make that argument, first it would be to the officer who just happened to be there at the time. And if they disagreed, if the officer still wrote the ticket, the judge, I suppose, would have the ultimate decision as to whether that person falls under the emergency personnel. But they're not specifically listed.
Okay. Any other questions or debate on 112? Roll call, please.
Scrivener.
Aye.
Ward.
Aye.
Branch.
Aye.
Costales.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Henry.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we'll have third reading of 113, please.
An ordinance amending the code of the City of Jefferson, Missouri by increasing the number of members of the Facade Improvement Committee to 7.
Janice.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Facade Improvement Committee oversees the city's facade improvement program, which you have seen in working in our downtown area. The current number of members is 5, and we have been experiencing some quorum issues, and so we request that the council increase the number of members from 5 to 7.
Any questions of Ms. McMillan on 113? Seeing none, any debate? Roll call, please.
Ward.
Aye.
Branch.
Aye.
Costales.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Henry.
Aye.
Hussey.
Aye.
Mahalovich.
Aye.
Prather.
Aye.
Scrivener.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we'll have, let's see, we're going to the informal calendar. At this point in time, we'll entertain a motion. Mr. Henry, what say you on 2014-100 dealing with ride sharing?
I'd actually like to pull Bill 2014-100 off the informal calendar, please.
Okay, it officially come off the informal calendar. It's been there for a while, as is the format. We'll have third reading, please.
An ordinance amending Chapter 34, Transportation of the Code of the City of Jefferson, Missouri to include ride sharing as a vehicle for hire.
All right, Drew, would you like to give us kind of an update on this, please?
Yeah, this kind of came about because of the new phenomenon of ride-sharing or network transportation vehicles. Uber being the most populous, but Sidecar and Lyft also exist. And the basics of it are that it's an app. So when a person puts their payment information into the app, so whenever they want someone, they click on it. Then the ride-sharing service contacts their closest driver, sends them to the scene. They get picked up. Payment is made to the ride-sharing service, so Uber takes the payment, and they pay their driver later on. I have learned a lot during this process, and I'll go into that in just a second. But all the ordinance does is define a ride-sharing service, and the reason it was written is to make it clear that they are in fact a vehicle for hire if they come into town. So in certain areas, at least for a while, Uber and some others had argued that they weren't a vehicle for hire and that they weren't a taxi cab. So all this does is clarify that even though I would argue they are, in fact, they already fall under our ordinance, this just clarifies that and takes that particular argument away. So all our current ordinance does is to say that they are in fact a vehicle for hire. And I know I've had some discussions that maybe the ordinance is a bit too specific, and that could be, a slightly different model maybe falls outside of this. I would argue they're still going to end up being a vehicle for hire because they're transporting people for money. So that's all the ordinance does. The bigger issues that have come up is how they would interact with if they came here. They've satisfied me that they've got probably sufficient insurance as they go. They've got different levels of insurance for different stages at where they're at. So this is Uber specifically. I'm sorry. Once they activate the app, there's a certain level of insurance. Once they're in the car, there's a certain level of insurance. There is maybe still a concern that the driver might lose their policy, but it hasn't really come to fruition. They do have some safety issues. They'll notify the person being picked up with a picture and of the car and the driver. And some jurisdictions have required signs on the Uber vehicles themselves, Uber driver, and Uber's consented to those type of regulations as well. So we're certainly not the only city dealing with these type of issues, and Uber and others are dealing with them too. And there's friction, and depending on where you go, some communities have gladly embraced them, and some have not. So we're not breaking any new ground here. But I also wanted to point out that if ultimately the council desires to allow ride-sharing service into town, it would basically require a pretty big rewrite of our current code. And I'm certainly willing to dig in and do that if anyone wants to sponsor that. But for now, all that's happening is that we are clarifying something I think is already true, which is ride-sharing services or network transportation vehicles are vehicles for hire. So I'm happy to answer any questions about specifics or not, but just wanted to be sure that you know that the ordinance itself isn't prohibiting Uber. They already are a vehicle for hire if they came here, and they'd have to prove their need and all those things. All it does is take away that particular argument that, hey, we're not really a vehicle for hire.
Mr. Prater.
I heard you mention insurance, and that kind of got my ears perked up here. And,
Yeah.
What limits are we requiring of them, and how many vehicles could possibly fall, if it's a blanket, how many vehicles could possibly fall under that limit, which would dilute that limit? So I'm just kind of curious as to what limits they've given you.
It was in excess. I think our limit was, our requirement is 300,000, I think. Yeah, I'm getting the nod from the guy who actually has to buy it. So we currently require 300,000. And what I saw on Uber's, depending on while the person's in the vehicle, it's $1 million limit that Uber has. When they click the app, so there's insurance from the time they're en route to pick up the app, and I think that's only $50,000 if I recall correctly, but there's not actually a driver at the time. So they have varying levels. I could actually send you the policy if you're interested. You might actually be. I'm not sure everyone would be.
I'd be interested in seeing that because, I mean, it means different things. It could be $50,000 per accident, which if you
I'm sorry, yes.
If you have like 5 people in there, they only have 10,000 apiece. So
yeah,
I mean,
50,000 is nothing.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of curious as to what that might be.
The $1 million policy, I'm sure, is in the aggregate, the total.
Any other questions on 100? Laura?
My concern with the service is public safety for the riders, and I was wondering in your discussions with them if they had any clarification on their background checks.
They did, and Roger and I sat on a telephone call with them, and I forgot the name of the service, but they gave us the clearinghouse they used for all their background checks, and they gave us a policy on what things they do background check on, and if those things were all accurate, I think Roger and I are probably both satisfied with that level of background check. It would be slightly more extensive than ours, although maybe not as Missouri specific. So they do quite a bit of that. But again, I don't know unless Roger did. I don't think we actually contacted the clearinghouse to verify it. No, we did not.
Are there any other cities in the state of Missouri that's using Uber?
Yeah, there's. I'm pretty sure St. Louis, Kansas City, and Columbia is dealing with it right now. I'm not sure if the other bigger cities, Springfield, are or not. I don't know that, but Columbia's trying to work out. They're working through the exact same thing, except they actually have Uber operating in their town right now.
Columbia does?
Columbia does, and they're trying to kind of regulate it from behind. So they're already there, now they're trying to
Drew,
regulate it.
Explain what you just said for the people at home that are just listening to this. We're trying to get, I shouldn't say ahead of them coming here, but we're trying to regulate what could happen before they get here. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, right now, again, if nothing else changes, they would be treated like every other vehicle for hire. And if they were to come here and say, you know, your ordinance doesn't quite hit what we do, so we don't think we're a vehicle for hire, then the problem is they start operating, they're already in town, and you're kind of trying to regulate while they're already here and be fair to everybody. So I always thought it's more fair to let them know ahead of time what the rules are before they get here. And so to me, this just kind of clarifies that.
And that's basically what this does.
That's all this does right now.
Okay. Bob?
I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood, and I think everyone does, but just for clarification for maybe someone listening at home, we're not approving Uber. There's been no application or anything. That this is not something to make it possible necessarily. It's not something to keep them out of town. It's just something to establish the fact that they are they and their type of service is a business for hire, just like a current taxi cab service in town or any other vehicle that is for hire.
That's right, and I'm glad you did say that. This won't prohibit Uber any more than the current ordinance is, and it won't allow them. This won't have any bearing on that. It just clarifies the ordinance that, in case they're wondering, yes, they're a vehicle for hire, just like every other city believes they are.
Yeah, if they wanted to come in and make a claim that they're not a vehicle for hire, we've already defined them as a vehicle for
right,
hire
and
by this ordinance.
And they are. I don't want to at all talk disparaging about it because they've been very helpful and they've adapted to regulations all over the country. So you know they want a fair shake when they come in, and we want to give them a fair shake. And the main thing is they need to know the rules before they come into town.
But we also want to give existing businesses a fair shake.
Absolutely.
As well. We don't want to be more stringent in regulating them than we might in someone that's coming in.
That's correct. And ultimately, the way that Uber's model is, you couldn't make Checker Cab do the things we make them do now and allow Uber to operate in the way that they generally do, because then you'd have two businesses we're saying are providing the same service and treating them in completely different ways.
Carlos? Couple of questions for you. One is, how are the rates set? How do they establish their rates? And then I know that right now we have Checker Cab here. How are their rates established? Is it from they make it up themselves, or is it a study? Or I mean, what is it? How are the rates set?
Checker Cab's rates are actually set by ordinance. And when Checker Cab feels that they need to raise those rates, they can bring it back for an adjustment. And then they have to demonstrate their costs have gone up or whatever. So they're actually, in exchange for having a certificate of convenience to operate here, they don't get to charge any more or any less than what the rates are. And the purpose for that is so that the public is treated fairly. So they know what they're going to get when they call Checker Cab. Uber's rates, I don't know exactly how they determine it, but they set their own rates. At least ideally, they may well be willing to comply with our code or not. That discussion's never happened. But again, that's another good example, though. If you would let them charge whatever they want, and then Checker Cab having to charge a certain amount, that just wouldn't be an equitable playing field.
Any other questions of staff on 100? Any more debate by council? Can you tell us what a yay vote does in this case? I know it's been a while since we looked at this. Yeah, that's fine.
A yes vote would add to the code the definition for ride-sharing service, which I just take time to read it for the people at home anyway. A business utilizing drivers, driver-owned vehicles, and a proprietary mobile phone app in which passengers connect with drivers, wherein an electronic transfer of funds is used to recover costs directly associated with transportation of passengers and or passengers and their property provided through the use of location technology to quantify those direct costs.
All right, roll call, please.
Branch,
Aye.
Costales,
Aye.
Graham,
Aye.
Henry,
Aye.
Hussey,
Aye.
Mahalovich,
Aye.
Prather,
Aye.
Scrivener,
Aye.
Ward.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we'll move on to resolutions. First resolution tonight is 2014-33. At this point in time, we'll entertain a motion and a second to accept.
I move that we accept the resolution 2014-33.
Second.
And a second, okay, and a brief description, please.
A resolution authorizing the city to apply for a Missouri Arts Council grant.
All right, Ms. McMillan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Missouri Arts Council provides funding to support community art agencies. If awarded, we'd come back and tell you specifically the amount that was awarded. But receipt of the grant will allow the Cultural Arts Commission to provide and or support art services, which may include event calendars, newsletters, technical assistance, planning and funding for arts programs.
Any questions of Ms. McMillan on 2014-33? Debate by council. Roll call, please.
Costales,
Aye.
Graham,
Aye.
Henry,
Aye.
Hussey,
Aye.
Mahalovich,
Aye.
Prather,
Aye.
Scrivener,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Branch.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we'll ask for a motion and a second on resolution 2014-34.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. Brief description, please, clerk.
A resolution authorizing the city of Jefferson to apply for the Assistance to Firefighters Safer Grant.
Mr. Schofield. Chief Schofield. Sorry, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This resolution would allow us just to apply for the grant. We understand that if we were successful, we would have to come back for approval for the acceptance of the grant. It would allow the city to rehire 2 vacant positions within the fire department suppression division. For 2 years, it would provide that funding. Historically, these grants have required the 3rd year be provided by the municipality. So we're including that in the overall summary that is a possibility. Some of the most recent documents we've seen have alluded that may not be required. The application period is February 9th through March 6th. So we're just trying to get approval to make the application at this time.
Okay. Any questions of Chief on 2014-34? Any council debate? Oh, I'm sorry, Rick. Go ahead, sir.
I just wanted to say that this was going to be the only item on the public safety agenda, so I decided to cancel that public safety meeting, and this went out to all the members of that committee, and I got yay votes on all that from committee members.
Thanks for bringing that up, Rick. Any other questions in tonight? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Graham,
Aye.
Henry,
Aye.
Hussey,
Aye.
Mahalovich,
Aye.
Prather,
Aye.
Scrivener,
Aye.
Ward, Branch,
Aye.
Costales.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on, any council or staff discussion tonight? Any new business before the council? Any unfinished business before the council? All right. At this point in time, pursuant to Missouri State Statute 610-021, this council could now go into closed session to deal with real estate. Is there a motion and a second, please? That's moved and seconded. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor. Well, it's going to be a roll call. Sorry. Roll call, please.
Branch,
Aye.
Costales.
Aye.
Graham,
Aye.
Henry,
Aye.
Hussey,
Aye.
Mahalovich,
Aye.
Prather, Scrivener,
Aye.
Ward.
Aye.
Matt, pretty fast deal tonight. We'll just meet back here in 2 minutes. And we are adjourned. Thank you. Where's that one, ma'am?
Not really adjourned.
Well, that's true. I say adjourn. That's bad.